Today I'm going to tie one of my patterns, fairly new, the Halo Isonychia. On the Upper Delaware Rivers, Isonychia are a major hatch, generally beginning in early June, and they tend to be around a good bit of the season beyond that, summer and into September. There's a second brood generally, which is a size 12. The early flies are a size 10. But the trout get used to them, and they seem to respond to Isonychia all summer, particularly on the main stem Delaware. So this is when the flies hatch, they very often look very much of an olive color in the body, and as they age a few moments after actually coming out of the nymphal case, they tend to turn to more of a claret color, a dark mahogany color, some might call it. And this is a fly that utilizes the chronic silk doving in an olive brown color over wine-colored unithread, which produces if it's dubbed very gently, you get a bleed-through effect. Our tailing material is going to be some of the whiting Coq de Leon tailing material, hackle fibers, rooster hackle, in a dark Pardo, which is a dark, predominantly very dark gray to black with some lighter tan and golden speckles. Measure them in, and we're going to tie split groups of tails. So there's a bump of tying thread at the tie-in point that we use as a little bit of an anchor for the fibers, and we'll tie in a small clump of fibers on each side to give a multi-fibered split tail. This is basically a comparadun style fly, which is tied them for many years with conventional coastal deer hair wings, when you can find the really dark gray, which seems to work the best for me. But this one's going to be tied with a different wing. Now we're going to build this underbody as we go with the wine colored thread, and I'm hoping the camera lets you see that color well. And instead of using deer hair to wing this fly, we're going to wing it with a synthetic, specifically Enrico Puglisi's EP fibers, the trigger point fibers, which are really nice new synthetic. And we're going to tie the comparadun wing with the EP fibers, with the trigger point. These are nice because it's grayish and there's some shine in there, but there's also some darker filaments that appear to be black in here. And it's a really nice material that gives you some variegation in color, which looks more natural to me for the wings, because if you look at wings on mayflies, you have venations and color variations in there that they're not just a straight gray or whatever color they might be. So we're going to cut these off square. Take a little bunch of the trigger point fibers. You cut them off even, try to keep them even. And of course then they slip and they're not. So we're going to even them up again. I'll measure my wing at hook length, tie it in the standard position. I'm going to tie that down pretty good, about 8 wraps of thread. Cut off the butts, tie the butts down. And you want to pay attention to getting that color on that underbody. And a nice shape to it. Pull the wing up. Tie it back. And I'll usually give about 10 wraps of thread there. And then we'll get a little bit of Wonder Wax on the thread. And we'll use this silk dubbing. Very, very fine denier. Wonderful to work with. Wonderful translucent sheen when it gets wet on the fly on the water. And we're just going to, even though this is a big fly, that's a size 10 fly, we're going to put the dubbing on fairly thin for this kind of a fly, because we want to, when the fly gets wet, we want to get that sheen and translucency from the olive silk, but we also want to get the bleed through of the claret color underneath. The wetter it gets, the more you'll see that darker claret color. And that's what tends to happen with the mayfly. The more time is elapsed after it is hatched, the more it will turn from the body will darken from the original olive color into the darker claret color. So this fly will do the same thing. Meanwhile, it'll maintain that shine and translucency even when the olive has almost disappeared. You'll still get that shine, that halo effect is what I've called it. Add a little more here. See how easily and nicely that silk dubbing goes on. Behind the wing, and then another couple wraps up the wing. Finish it. Make our thread head. I like to use this thread head and have this claret visible because it kind of tips me off that, okay, this is the halo version. Whip finish it. Trim that off. And then turn it, and just as you do with a deer hair comparadun, you want to fan out the wing fibers. And I will squeeze them a little bit. And then for durability, when we're fishing, I'll do again the same thing I do with a deer hair comparadun. So I'll put a little bit of head cement right at the base of the wing fibers, right where it meets the body. And that, once it dries, will help set that wing and help the fly maintain its shape. And these are great. These the trigger point fibers are pre-treated with watershed, so they're waterproof. They don't absorb. The fly is very durable. It's got a great appearance. It's more visible on the water with the shine in that wing, and it's a very effective fly during the Isonychia hatch, and once the Isonychia has been on the water on the Upper Delaware River.